Yes, yes, yes. Welcome to another episode of Go Long Live. I am your host, Barry Long, the second, not the first, not the third. I am the second. We are live here and from Coachella Valley, from Coachella, California. We are live on CoachellaValley.com. We are live on today'scalifornia.com. We are also live on today'scanada.com. Live all over the Twitterverse, the Metaverse, the Universe, live wherever you can find your podcast. My name is Barry Long the second. Like I said, we talk sports here on Go Long Live, and joining me each and every Monday through Friday at noon 30, as he does each and every day. Mo Murphy, what's going on, cuz? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm all good, bro. What's good?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. A lot of people watched that game last night, and it was a little boring for the average casual football fan. But considering the weather, considering the weapons that each team had at their disposal, I kind of figured that was the kind of game we were going to get. But we're going to get into that. We're also going to talk this college football because now the playoff is set. We know who's going to face who. We know what's going to take place before, leading up to these games. But we do not know who's going to win and who will ultimately come out on top. But we are going to get Mo Murphy's opinion on that because I'm sure Mo Murphy has, a pretty strong opinion on who will come out on top. Also, we're going to talk about the rest of the NFL games that we didn't get into yesterday. But before we get into that, how was your weekend, man?
Oh, bro, it's good. I was in Houston in the weekend for the weekend with my homeboys, bro, for his birthday. You know what I'm saying? Best friend for 22 years. So
Ooh,
we was out
okay.
there. Yeah, we was out there in Houston for his birthday, bro. Hung out, enjoyed the city.
That's what's up, man. Houston is a big city. I've been out there, a couple of times, and I was surprised about how big it is. But yeah, Houston is lit. Houston is lit. All right, so let's talk about the game that we saw last night. Let's talk about this game between the Patriots and the Bills. Everybody that was leading up to this game, and we saw one team that could not run the ball well at all, and basically gave up on the run, and that being the Bills. And we saw the Patriots stick to the run, and Mac Jones only threw the ball for 3 times. He went 2 for 3. He had this dude had 19 yards passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions, obviously, but they were able to get that run game going. And Damian Harris had 10 carries for 111 yards, 1 touchdown. Ramondre Stevenson even got in the game and got in on the mix for 24 carries and 78 yards. And it was just a recipe for success with the Patriots when you saw what Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels, their mindset was going into this game. We've seen quarterbacks only throw the ball, 10, 15 times, 13 times. We saw Jimmy Garoppolo win an NFC championship game to go to the Super Bowl. But, for them to come out and be that bold, be that committed to the run, 3 times only passing the ball, but it worked. And their defense backed them up on the other side. So what was your thoughts from that game yesterday, what we saw from the Patriots, and are they the best team in the AFC?
Um, I mean, it's almost tough to not buy the New England Patriots anymore, but this was a bad matchup for the Buffalo Bills. Based on the weather and what they can't do, they can't stop the run and they can't run the ball. And with 30 plus mile per hour winds, like we know Josh Allen has a strong arm, and bro, the ball was good. When you throw the ball, the wind gonna take it. So this was a bad matchup for Buffalo, as you could see, and they couldn't stop the run and they couldn't run the ball. And so that changed because trying to throw in that kind of weather. Do I think the Patriots are the best team in the AFC? I mean, it's getting to the point it's hard not to buy that the Patriots are the best team in the AFC. I mean, they're just as good as anybody. They got the legendary coach. They got the offensive coordinator. They have the coach that has the experience. He knows how to win. He knows what it takes to get there. They got a young quarterback that he does what's asked of him. And yesterday, he was only asked to throw the ball 3 times. If they couldn't stop the run, so why put it in Mac Jones' hands in weather conditions that was not great for any quarterback? So, I mean, it was just I knew it was going to be this kind of matchup. I locked in on betting on the under. I locked in on betting on the Patriots +4. Like, I just knew it was this kind of matchup where even if the Patriots lose, they weren't going to lose by a lot. But once I actually seen what the weather was like, I was like, oh, yeah, this is a perfect game for the Patriots because the Buffalo Bills can't run the ball, and that's a problem.
Yeah, and it was 37 degrees, and they said it felt more like 23, but the real story was that wind. It was 25 to 35 mile per hour winds constant, but then sometimes they had gusts of up to 55 miles per hour wind. And it was going to be problematic for both teams in the kicking game and in the passing game. We know that coming in. And I was surprised actually how Buffalo threw the ball more times than they actually did. They threw the ball 30 times. Josh Allen completed 15 of those passes for 145 yards. But yeah, I mean, if Buffalo stays more committed to the run and they don't try to pass the ball as much, and if they could stop the run, which has been problematic for them in the last few weeks, I don't know if Buffalo is really that team that we were thinking that they were earlier in the season. Like we're gonna see them play against the Patriots again, and it's gonna be in New England, and I'm pretty sure that the weather conditions are not gonna be as windy as monsoonal as they were yesterday. But we really got to see that the Patriots, they really do have the dominance over this Buffalo Bills team. Bill Belichick is just sunned them yesterday. He said, "Look, I'm going to beat you with a rookie quarterback. I'm going to let this dude throw 3 times, and we're going to beat you with defense." And that's what they did, and it was just beautiful to watch. Bill Belichick and have a dominant defense. Now,
well, the problem was real quick. I just want to say, the problem is the game was in Buffalo. You're not built to play in your own weather. That is the biggest problem about Buffalo, is your team is not built to play in your own weather. So even if you were to host a playoff game and it was in conditions like that, you won't be favored against majority of these teams in the AFC because they can all run the ball. Cleveland, Baltimore, New England, who else? Pittsburgh can run the ball. They at least got Najee Harris, and you can't stop the run. So that's the biggest cause for concern is, yes, if they play away and they play in one of these where there's not going to be those kind of conditions, cool. But a lot of these teams, they're not built for that cold weather, that windy, that ground and pound, get it in the trenches, because they can't stop the run and they can't run the ball. That is the biggest problem. So seeing that, yeah, there probably won't be another game with those type of winds, that cold or whatever, but it's possible. And so for you to be at home and not have a recipe to win under conditions that are possible at your home stadium, that's the problem with Buffalo.
Should have built that team differently.
Buffalo do not have a rest. Typically, people have home field advantage. They did not have the advantage going into that game because they can't run the ball.
Josh Allen was their leading rusher yesterday.
Yeah. And that was only because he had a 22-yard run and then few yards here and there. But that's the problem, is to have home field advantage, it's the crowd, it's the environment. It could be that, hey, we have conditions unlike others at any point during the season. And that's what it is in Buffalo. And you can't run the ball and you can't stop the run. So therefore, if that was a playoff game, that would be embarrassing to lose that way for the simple fact, like, you don't have a recipe to win a home playoff game. Where does that make sense at? How do you not have the recipe to win at home?
And it felt like a playoff game yesterday. And, just the Monday Night Football feel to it and just the anticipation of seeing these two teams matching up, it definitely did feel like a playoff game. But we saw the Patriots were able to do. They were able to win it that way. I think they're able to win in different ways. Bill Belichick has been a master of this for so many years. And, it's just great to see him back on top because Tom Brady left and we were all rooting for Tom Brady to have success outside of New England so that he could prove that it was mainly him. He did that, but Bill Belichick I'm rooting the same way that I rooted for Tom Brady last year, for Bill Belichick this year. I like to see him have success so that he can just remind everybody that, hey, man, I know what the hell I'm doing. Because, I've been here, been doing it. So
Bucs versus Patriots in the Super Bowl?
No, absolutely not. I do not think Mac Jones will get it done. I don't think he'll get to the Super Bowl.
Does it? What you meant? You said it. You just said it. You said Jimmy Garoppolo made it to the Super Bowl not throwing the ball a lot.
Yep.
All right. He'll make an AFC championship not throwing the ball a lot. It's possible. We've seen it done, and they didn't have Bill Belichick coaching that defense. They didn't have Josh McDaniels calling plays. I'm not saying that New England's going to the Super Bowl, but it's not out of the realms of possibilities to have arguably the biggest, most historic, storied. Remember, we talked about this. This was the most historic regular season matchup. Yep. It's out of the realm of possibilities that this is the most historic, most storyline Super Bowl. Like Brady left, won the Super Bowl. The second year removed from New England has to prove his greatness against his former head coach in the Super Bowl. I'm just saying, I think I'd love to see it. My Cowboys can't go. I think this is the matchup I would love to see in LA. In LA. Problem.
Hey, it's a story. It's a story made for a movie, and it would be perfect to have it right here in Hollywood. But who knows? We never know.
There would be a movie. TV productions will make.
Speaking of movie, they have a movie coming out about college football. It's called National Championship. It's going to drop this Friday. I'm excited about watching that. But we'll talk about that right now. Let's go right into some college football real quick, and then we'll get into our most electrifying player, who Mo chose is going to be our most electrifying player of the week. But yeah, we saw Alabama, who was number 3 at the time, going against the number 1 team, Georgia. And a lot of people thought that Georgia was going to, show why they've been the best college football team, the best college football defense in the country all year. But what happened? Alabama came out and asserted their dominance and reminded us all, just like the Patriots did last night, that they are Alabama. They're freaking New England. They are freaking Alabama. They do this in their sleep. They came out. Bryce Young looked phenomenal, like he always does. I mean, my man is 43 touchdowns this season. And less than 5 interceptions. My man is killing the game right now. He was 26 of 44, 421 yards, 3 touchdowns for no interceptions. He basically solidified and stamped his Heisman Trophy candidacy and his Heisman Trophy, basically. But they had a great game, man. They had a really good game, and they had a great game by Jamison Williams, 7 catches for 184 yards. His touchdown, really kind of got that team sparked, because they were down at first, and what did they do? They went on a run just like Alabama always does. And Stetson Bennett, we saw him struggle. He does not play well when he throws the ball that many times. He threw the ball 48 times, okay? And he usually throws the ball less than 20 times. Their recipe for winning is usually running the ball and dominance with that defense, and they weren't unable to do that. When you get behind early, you've got to throw the ball, and Stetson Bennett is not that guy. So we saw what Georgia was not able to do and come back, and we just saw how dominant Alabama is. Now Alabama is the number 1 team in the nation. It is a beautiful thing for all Alabama fans. Michigan has now remaining at 2. You got Georgia that's jumped down to 3, and Cincinnati is the 4th team. So in the college football playoff, we will see Alabama, Cincinnati, Michigan versus Georgia. And before we get into your picks on who's going to win, tell us about this Alabama game between Alabama and Georgia, and what were your thoughts?
I mean, so I was in Houston, but we did watch this game. We were all adamant about it. No matter what festivities we got going on, we're going to watch this game.
At the strip club?
No, we didn't. No. So I'm going to be honest. Georgia got put out of their element, and that's the first time all year where they felt uncomfortable, right? They've dominated. No team has scored more than 24 points on Georgia, and Alabama did that at the half. So they got put in an uncomfortable position. Happens to the greatest of teams. Also, once they got put in that uncomfortable position, it was hard to really get turned up. You know why? Because Georgia knew win or lose, we're going to the playoffs. So it comes one of those, don't pull out all your bag of tricks to try and come back and win this game. Yes, you may not be the SEC champ, but what's more important, the SEC championship or the national championship? So Alabama, it was a must-win game for Alabama. A Nick Saban-led team in a must-win situation is ideal. Just like, Bill Belichick in a must-win situation, that's an ideal matchup. Their offense had looked bad, but Nick Saban got them ready. But at the same time, once Georgia got down, there was, once you see that in conference championship games, you start seeing trick plays. You start seeing stuff that you're not used to seeing. But Georgia was not going to do that with the possibility of you may see Bama again in the national championship. We didn't know if they were going to see them in the first round, or if they may have a possibility. There's a possibility to see them in the national championship. You don't pull out all your bag of tricks. But the biggest key here is Georgia had Bama shook early.
Yes.
Nick Saban had his former assistant shook for the rest of the game. That's what it is once again, Nick Saban, I think he only has one loss against a former assistant, and it was against Kirby Smart in the SEC championship a few years ago. Bro, Nick Saban just feasts against his former coordinators. That's Bill Belichick. Like you said, Bama is so New England-like that it's insane. Because, these legendary head coaches, when they go against their former assistants, they got the upper hand. You know why? Because I taught you everything you know. I brought you in here as a grad assistant or whatever. I took you under my wing, and I taught you everything. I designed your system for you. I gave you the blueprint to design your system for when you become a future head coach. So they got these great coordinators, raised them, and then put the game in a chokehold because, hey, guess what? Your national championship going to have to come through me, baby, and I taught you everything you know, so you better come with it. And Kirby Smart didn't come with it. That's just what happened. But Georgia's going to bounce back. They're going to watch a lot of film. They're going to learn from it, but they don't have an ideal matchup in the first round. If you want me to be honest.
Yeah, Georgia going up. Georgia going up against Michigan. It's going to be a really tough game for them. Who do you like in that game?
I'm gonna go Georgia because I'm not rooting for Michigan.
I mean, it's sad that Ohio State, couldn't stay in the top 4. It's you feel bad for a team like Notre Dame that's just right on the outside looking in. Brian Kelly knew that though. Brian Kelly knew that the season was over. He knew that he wasn't gonna be able to get into that top 4, so he had to leave early. But Cincinnati against Alabama, I feel bad for Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati is gonna struggle against a team like Alabama. It's just going to be night and day when we see those two teams play, and that's that's my opinion.
I'm with you. I get it, but Barry, you're taking the easy opinion. You're taking the easy way out. You're protecting your brand. You're protecting yourself, and I get it. You don't want to go out on a limb.
I'm not going out on a limb on Nick Saban.
Want to have to live
Nick
being
Saban.
Get it? Hey, I get it, and I'm with you.
We're gonna see. We're gonna
see you on that. I'm just saying. This Cincinnati matchup is not as lopsided as one would assume on futures past. We've seen what Bama looks like when they don't play A-plus football. Mm-hmm. And they haven't played A-plus football more often than not this year. Yes, I trust that a Nick Saban team is going to be ready. But, there's a quarterback that can get out the pocket, that can make the throws. Robert Mechie being hurt and tearing his ACL is very key, because now you put arguably the best corner in the country in Sauce Gardner one-on-one, and he's able to follow Jameson Williams all game. Bro, that's going to be the matchup to watch in that game, is Sauce Gardner versus Jameson Williams, for the simple fact he wouldn't necessarily be able to do that if Mechie was playing. He might, whoever's hot, I'm going to have to guard. I'm going to have to play all around and just figure it out and hope that we called the right play. Now he gets to shadow Jameson Williams the whole game. That's the matchup. The one true matchup I'm looking forward to is that one-on-one matchup between Sauce Gardner and Jameson Williams, because that one's going to get crazy.
Okay, I can't wait to see that matchup between them and just to see how this thing unfolds. But Alabama is just amazing, man. For them to lose early in the season and everybody kind of press the panic button on them, and they just slowly but surely they rose to the top, and they're back at number 1 like they always are. But it will be interesting to see. We are Go Long Live. This is live. We're live on CoachellaValley.com, live on today'scalifornia.com. We are live on today'scanada.com. Please comment and let us know what your opinions are on the stuff that we're talking about. We saw a wonderful thing happen this past Sunday, and that was the Detroit Lions beating the Minnesota Vikings, and it came down to the wire. It was a crazy game that was on the last play as time expired. And Mo Murphy, why don't you tell us who your most electrifying player of the week is? And it is brought to you by Palmer Electric. Call 760-797-7878 for all of your commercial or residential electric needs. Once again, that's 760-797-7878 for Palmer Electric. And let Larry Palmer know that Barry sent you. All right, who's our most electrifying player of the week, Mo Murphy?
Well, I could have took the easy way out and said what everybody else would have said, and that's Tom Brady. But you know what? I'm going to show love when love is due. My man played absolutely amazing outside of his interception, threw the game-winning touchdown, got his team, after all the flack he's taken all year for playing fairly poorly most of the year, Jared Goff. Give me Jared Goff. Jared Goff is the most electrifying player of the week. 25-41, 296 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. That third touchdown was the biggest touchdown of the week. You know why? Because that third touchdown got the Detroit Lions their first win. And you know what made me pick Jared Goff? Because I wanted you to pay for all the stuff you've been saying about Detroit.
Yeah, I've been talking smack about
You've been dogging Detroit, and I've said, so think about it. Their tie is against a team who's right outside the playoff hunt and just beat your Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Good team. Not great team, good team. Another good team, Minnesota, good, not great, whatever, you don't know what you get, but they're on the outside looking in of a playoff spot, but this is a team that people actually fall in love for and be like, they just get on the unlucky side of winning close games. Detroit ties one, beats the other. They've had a lot of close games with a lot of teams.
A lot.
They are not as bad as their record says, even though they're a bad team. Like, they're still a bad team, but they're not the worst team in the NFL. I'm sorry. That's got to go to the Texans or the Jets. Detroit has played too many close games to say they're the worst team in the NFL when you watch them. But looking at record and just assuming it's Detroit with Jared Goff, then yeah. But when you watch them, like, they somehow, some way, they find a way to play it tight. They played it tight against Baltimore. We've gone over this on a weekly basis. But yes, Jared Goff is the most electrifying player of the week. I want to give him his flowers. I could have simply went with the future MVP, Tom Brady, who threw for 4 touchdowns, almost 400 yards. Yeah, I could have went that route. Everybody's gone that route. So let me give flowers to the guy who's taking a lot of flack in Jared Goff.
Jared Goff, yes. Give him his flowers. But you know what? Jared Goff, he kind of also went viral on the internet this weekend because when he got the win, his wife or his girlfriend, is about to be his fiance, she wasn't there at the game. She was actually on a photo shoot because she's a model. And then, you know, her reaction to seeing him get the victory and them being on the phone was kind of sweet. And a lot of people on Twitter were talking about it. But Jared Goff is the most electrifying player of the week. But he's also because look at her, man. Woo! That man. That man got.
He's a winner on and off the field.
Yes, yes, he is.
On and off the field.
Yes, he is. Shout out to Jared Goff for killing the game this weekend, man, and really taking that team to the next level, getting that win. But they need to not win anymore. If you're a Detroit Lions fan, you do not want any more wins because you want to maintain that number 1 overall draft pick and see what you can do with that. But
I think they'll be okay. They'll be, if they win a couple more games. They're not taking a quarterback, so it really. You're going to get a great player because you're not taking a quarterback, so you'll be fine.
And I apologize to Dan Campbell for all the flack that I've been giving him. He did get a win, but he's not keeping his job. He's not.
He's keeping his job. That win might have secured his job, and it might be costing Mike Zimmer his job. So that's the job you should be calling for. Dan Campbell might have secured his job by getting that win, and he might have cost the coach on the opposite sideline his job because I done seen it. Vikings Twitter is done with Mike Zimmer. They've already but that losing to you, the team that lost to Detroit, like Mike Tomlin has done enough around this league where when they tied, it's like, yeah, you got 8, ancient Big Ben. We understand it shouldn't happen, but you've never had a losing season. And then he goes and wins a couple big games, was able to beat Baltimore recently. So it's Mike Tomlin where, you look at Mike Zimmer, it's like, bro, what have you really done for us? Like, you gotta, what have you really done for us? Like
Mike Zimmer, man. Mike Zimmer on the hot seat.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. Mike Zimmer on the hot seat. But yeah, that is our most electrifying player of the week, Jared Goff, brought to you by Palmer Electric. Call 760-797-7878 for all your commercial and residential needs. Call 760-797-7878 and tell Larry Palmer that Barry sent you. Shout out to Larry Palmer for sponsoring that segment. But now let's get into some other NFL games that we had this past week that we didn't get into yesterday. The first game that I wanted to ask you about is the Chargers and the Bengals, because we saw the Chargers get up early on the Bengals. The Bengals crawled all the way back. They were able to cut it to 2. Then Joe Mixon fumbles the ball. The Chargers are able to scoop and score, and then we are able to see Justin Herbert bring a team up. Then the team comes back, but we're able to see him put the foot on the gas at the end of the game and actually win a game for the Chargers that was pretty close. And he's been struggling in the past few weeks, but he threw for 317 yards, 3 touchdowns. They really had Williams. Williams went off for 5 catches for 110 yards. But Joe Burrow, despite having 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions, he did throw for 300 yards. He did bring the team back. There are no such thing as moral victories in the NFL. But I was impressed with his ability to come back, being down and not just giving up. But I was also impressed with Justin Herbert's ability to win a close game. What are your thoughts on that game?
This was the oddest matchup to analyze prior to the game as far as the Bengals and Chargers, because these are 2 good teams that you never knew what you were going to get. Like they've been the toughest team to really analyze, both of them, because when they play A+ football, they play great. They're just as good as anybody, essentially. But then they play great, and then they don't show up the next week. Like Cincinnati, remember they smacked Baltimore and turned around and got smacked the same way, because they're 2 very consistent teams. Like, that's just what it is. So it was one of those, from a betting perspective, anybody that inquired about this game, my thoughts, I was like, I'd stay away from it altogether, because I can't really tell you. I don't know who I would have winning, because, yeah, Cincinnati, you know what I'm saying? Like, you would say Cincinnati and you can make a case, you say the Chargers, but I'm like, they're both inconsistent. Chargers jump on early, I said, see, this is why. And then the Bengals come back, and I was like, see, this is exactly why as a bettor you stay away from this game because you didn't know what you were going to get unless you were a true Chargers fan or a true Bengals fan. But, I mean, yeah, this was the oddest matchup going into the week in the first place. Like, all signs to me pointed stay away from it because there was nobody I really liked for the simple fact you don't know what you're going to get from these two teams. And that's why even if they make the playoffs, I don't really expect them to go anywhere after the first round just because, like, I can't project what I'm going to get. They don't have a real identity where most teams, especially the competitive teams that we think will make a run in the playoffs, they have an identity. Essentially, we know their keys to victory. We don't know how these guys win. They just end up winning games and then they're not supposed to. We just
like
haven't seen them really win a single way consistently, and that's kind of the problem with both of these teams. But it was a good game. You know, to see two young quarterbacks, this was a future quarterback matchup. Probably a lot of playoff matchups in the future. You know, Herbert, Burrow. So this was one of those, like, this was that rivalry for the future. Like, you might see, you know, how Manning and Big Ben and Tom Brady, you know, and Phillip Rivers used to all see each other. Like, that might be what you get when you get Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, like, and Lamar. Those might be your four quarterbacks that are battling out. Josh Allen, like, it's pretty deep quarterback play over there in the AFC. It might be battling out for years to come. And we just came off of seeing that when you had, you know, Brady, Manning, Roethlisberger. Phillip Rivers wasn't necessarily in that playoffs.
He was Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, but he was Phillip Rivers. Like, you know, he was a great regular season quarterback. So it's just one of those that there's going to be a lot of matchups between them two. So to see that Chargers get the victory, you know, Joe Burrow, the struggle, probably, you know, the Joe Burrow haters are like, Justin Herbert's better than Joe Burrow. Should have took Justin Herbert. You know, a whole bunch of storylines. But it was a good game, though. It was definitely a good game.
It really was. And Phillip Rivers, I hated his throwing motion. That was, I mean, he threw like a T-Rex. It was terrible. Let's talk about the Cardinals because they have really established an identity, but they've been flying underneath the radar for quite a while.
Crazy, right?
And I'm guilty of it too because I really, you know, kind of overlooked them. And they're the first team to get the 10 wins in the NFC, but in the NFL completely. They're 10-2 right now. They're leading that division by 2 games. The Rams are 8-4, and they've just been winning game after game after game. And we see, you know, that they run the ball a lot. Their identity is they've been giving the ball to James Conner a lot. It's a lot out of the backfield as well. They have, you know, some of the best, you know, weapons in Kyler Murray being, you know, a weapon himself. And then they have DeAndre Hopkins. They got a good defense. They just been winning games. And a lot of people, you know, have not really given them their respect that they deserve. But I found this stat very interesting. They've won all their road games. Every road game they played 7 road games. They've won them all by double digits. So this team is not only legit, this team is legit on the road. And they were able to win games. They were able to win 2 games with Colt McCoy being the backup quarterback. And then we saw Kyler Murray come back this past week and just be Kyler Murray and do what he does. I mean, he only threw the ball for 15 times and only completed 11 passes, but, you know, he ran the ball a lot too. And he ran for 59 yards and had 2 rushing touchdowns. And they were just able to, you know, to manage the clock by giving the ball to James Conner 20 times. And yeah, he only had 75 yards and no touchdowns, but he was able to eat up a lot of that clock, get critical first downs on third downs. And you know, they asserted their dominance defensive wise over the Bears. They got 4 interceptions on Andy Dalton. This team is legit, and I think this team can go all the way. You know, I know there's levels to this. And there's tiers that you have to go through before you just automatically win a Super Bowl. You got to get to the playoffs. Then you got to win a playoff game. Then you got to get to the AFC Championship or NFC Championship. Then you get to the Super Bowl. But this team really feels like, you know, they could win it all. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this game and on the Cardinals in general?
So, I mean, on this game, like, come on, you played Andy Dalton. You got 4 interceptions. You did what you were supposed to do. Like, that's what great teams do in this league. They do what they're supposed to do. Still, they even with 4 interceptions, the Bears scored 22 points. Like, I'm not gonna say but that, like, you know, it is what it is. Whatever when you come out with the victory in the NFL, you come out with the victory. It doesn't impact your rankings. Letting a bad team score 22 points, a bad offense, even with 4 interceptions, still be able to, you know, have some successful drives on you. But the Cardinals in general, I'm buying in a little bit, but I'm still not all in. I don't think they're a championship team. I think they could win a playoff game. Like you said, it's levels. But we'll see, because here's the thing. When you get to the playoffs, there are no bad teams. You won't be playing the Bears on the road. You won't, you don't want to have Kyler Murray coming back off his first injury and kind of throwing the ball a little bit, running the ball a little bit, but not unleashing Kyler Murray like you would in a playoff game. So that's the only thing, is there are no bad teams in the playoffs. And for the most part, there are no bad coaches in the playoffs. And so Cliff Kingsbury is really, he's listen, we seen him start off great, not this great last year, and fall off, but he's going to have it to him because he's going to be playing against top-notch coaches. And that's why I don't know. We've heard rumors. We've heard rumors that Cliff Kingsbury, could be going to college. Like, we had heard that. I don't know if he does. He probably doesn't. Obviously, the jobs that he was linked to kind of been taken, but still, I'm just not all in on Arizona yet. I'm buying into them week by week, but like I said, you don't play the Bears on the road in the playoffs. You don't get to play any bad team. You have a team that's typically just as good as you, or a step below you. If they get the 1 seed, they don't even have to play in the first round, which makes it even more of you're playing against a team that's really on your level in the second round of the playoffs, because typically in the wild card round, you get rid of the bottom tier teams, and now it's all championship contenders. It's the 4 championship contenders sitting there left. So we'll have to see, because Cliff Kingsbury is going to have it tough if they do get that first round bye, which I would think is in their best interest to play as least amount of playoff games as possible, when it'll be a lot of guys on that team first. And then with Cliff Kingsbury also it being his first, it'd be a lot of pressure. So they should be they should be really pushing to continue to stay amazing in the regular season, so they at least could say they got a first round bye and they played, in the divisional round of the playoffs, because I don't trust Cliff Kingsbury over possibly Brady and Bruce Arians. I don't trust him against. I really don't trust him against any of those Rodgers and Matt LaFleur.
Not even Dak and McCarthy.
maybe there, but even still, we know Kellen Moore knows how to call great games. Dallas has been semi-inconsistent, but at the same time, you've seen how great their defense can be, and you've seen how great their offense can be. And few more games left, division rounds, they start putting it together. You'd be like, okay, like Mike McCarthy and Dak, they've been to, Mike McCarthy's won the Super Bowl as a coach. Dak has played in a couple of playoff games, has won a playoff game against Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks, in his tenure as the Cowboys coach. This is a veteran team. They got some young guys, but this is a very veteran team. So when you look at the Cardinals, you'd be like, they don't have a single favorable matchup if they get that first round bye. All these other teams have a favorable first round matchup outside of Dallas right now, because they would play the Rams. But that's the problem, because then in the second round, they might not even be the favorite at home. It might be a playoff game in Arizona, and they might come in as the underdog, especially if you look at it from a betting perspective. So they're going to have it tough. I just say keep winning games, keep getting people to believe. I'm starting to buy in, but, if they get to that, 14-3, 15-2, it's kind of hard not to buy stock into the Arizona Cardinals to say a team is fluke at 14-3 and 15-2, but they'll have to put that stamp on that regular season success in the playoffs. That's the only way you believe in teams is in the playoffs.
And they've never done it before. They've never won a Super Bowl ever in their franchise history. They won an NFL championship before it became the merger, but yeah, you would like to see a team like this really kind of, get over the hump for that city. And the city, has been close to championships. They were just close to winning an NBA Finals this past season, but it was ripped out of their hands.
Just like that Super Bowl they played in.
Just like that Super Bowl they played against Pittsburgh.
Holmes made that amazing catch. Arizona won that game. Antonio Holmes made that amazing catch. They've been a team to get there and get heartbroken. They've been a city to get there and get heartbroken.
It's just very sad, but we'll see. All right, well, we appreciate everybody for tuning in. We are going to break down the rest of the games. We got to get to the Dolphins, the Giants, the Bucks, Falcons. We got the Eagles, Jets. We'll break all those down tomorrow. Real quick, we want to leave y'all with this meme of the day. I saw this. This is courtesy of Basketball Within Borders. It says that Otto Porter needs to do some research because he does look awful lot like Wilt Chamberlain. And if you know anything about Wilt Chamberlain, not only did he score a lot of points, but he scored on a lot of women. And,
he scored on the court and off the court. That was
don't they look exactly alike?
Yeah, bro, exactly alike. They look like that's a picture you post on Facebook. Be like, me and my granddaddy both played in the NBA, or me and both played in the NBA. Look at us. I'm a spitting image of my father. That's You have guys who look alike. Like you have people like, people tell you look like a person.
Yeah.
Look like that. Like
Yeah.
they look like that. Like your lookalike doesn't look like that.
That is like a doppelganger for real. Look, Otto, and his name is Otto Porter Jr. So somebody better find out who Otto Porter Sr. is and let him know. But yeah, all right. We'll see you. Let them know where they can find you at, Mo. Let them know where they can find you at.
Yeah, you can find me at Upper Flames Pod on Twitter, Instagram, _Cheese15 on Twitter and Instagram. And check out, Off the Ball Network. Go to offtheballnetwork.com for all your sports needs and entertainment.
And you can find me at Radio Barry Long on Twitter and at IG at Barry Long _2. Remember, stay focused, stay motivated, stay inspired, and go out and achieve anything because you're capable of doing anything. We'll see y'all tomorrow. We're going to break down some more football. Peace.